Alrighty, everyone. Well, a lot has been said in recent days about Kang the Conqueror. And that's because, well, there's been a lot of drama, obviously, surrounding the whole Jonathan Majors situation. And, there's been, we don't have to get into those details. In fact, I would rather we didn't get into all those details because, that's just not what our YouTube channel and podcast are for. But just to say how it affects the Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes, it did happen. The Jonathan Majors drama did happen, and it effectively led to him being fired from Marvel Studios as Kang the Conqueror. Marvel did a huge pivot, and they went away from Kang and are now, it looks like there are basically no plans to include him in the future, and they are pivoting to Doctor Doom, played by Robert Downey Jr. However, there were some talks, or at the very least some rumors for a little bit of time, that suggested Marvel may be looking to recast the character of Kang and continue on with him. And it was, at the very least, even if it wasn't a substantiated rumor, it was a possibility, right? That, Marvel had to take seriously. Whether or not we know how far those discussions went, it remains to be seen, right? We don't know that. However, one of the actors that was, kind of fan cast as the replacement for Jonathan Majors was none other than Colman Domingo, who has been making the rounds lately in the Oscar world because he's been putting in great performance after great performance. I first, noticed him in a show like Euphoria. He was just really good in that show, and he's done only great things from here. And obviously he is in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man as the voice of Norman Osborn, who he also, it looks like in the podcast from Josh Horowitz, Happy, Sad, Confused, he pointed out, hey, maybe I'd like to play the live action version of Norman Osborn, is at least according to some other articles. I haven't listened to the podcast myself, so just going off of what other people have said. But that's not really what we're here to talk about, because Colman Domingo, right, he was kind of the fan casting to replace Jonathan Majors. But, fan castings are fan castings. Sure, you'll get the odd John Krasinski as Reed Richards and whatnot, but it doesn't always come to fruition like that. Well, not so fast, because it looks like Colman Domingo actually did speak to Marvel, and they did discuss Kang to a certain extent. There's a little bit of a caveat to that, and the end result, right? The bottom line is that it's not going to go anywhere. He's not going to play Kang for, I think, a very good reason, very solid reason, and it seems to solidify the idea that they just don't look like they're going to go to Kang anyways. But I think it's really interesting to hear his thoughts, and he does seem very game to be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at some point in a live action role, which I think is a really exciting thing because he's just a terrific actor. He's nominated for an Academy Award for his role in Sing Sing, and I think he just, if he was added into the MCU in live action, it would just be such a get, right? It's like, again, if Blade ever happens, but the Mahershala Ali kind of casting, 2-time Academy Award winner, getting those kinds of actors in there, always a good thing. So let's read out some quotes here from that Happy, Sad, Confused podcast interview, and then we'll talk about it on the other side. So the first thing he says, quote, listen, after a while, when it was constantly in the press and places like Twitter, he's talking about the fan castings for Kang. Anyways, he goes on, I was like, wait a minute. Is this true? Am I being talked about for Kang? So I literally called my team and asked, are you having conversations that I don't know anything about? They were like, no. So that was the first quote. And then I'm looking at an article that has a transcript here. Next quote. Quote, there have been conversations about me coming into Marvel in some way. So we did a follow-up with them with a sit-down meeting with the heads of Marvel. So I did do that. And we talked openly about the landscape of Marvel and even the Kang rumors. Okay, that's the second quote. Moving on to the third quote here. Quote, I'm just all about energy, and I just want to do things that make sense and brings gentle energy. I want a role to be mine, whatever that role is, whatever I develop. Something doesn't feel right of me. And then he quotes, I guess he's speculating here. Quote, oh, would I replace somebody? No. I said, I want to build something from the ground up that's my own. And then let's take a look here at the final quote. Quote, so I feel that was never a conversation from my point of view. You know what I mean? If I was being discussed, I still don't know if I was being discussed, but I just know that I would want to build something from the ground up. So this, to me, this actually makes a lot of sense because, again, Colman Domingo, this is all, it's kind of like life imitating art, imitating life sort of thing. Colman Domingo sees those rumors about him replacing Kang because people just, fan castings, right? For example, it would be kind of a similar situation if inevitably they do go with a new version of T'Challa, and if it is somebody like a John David Washington who seems like a pretty prominent fan casting for the role, and it's like, it comes out later, oh, well, because he saw those rumors, he went to Marvel and was like, yeah, I'd like to play him. And I think it's a similar thing here where Colman Domingo is saying, oh, people want me to play Kang. What's that all about? And the other really interesting thing here that I think is encouraging is that he had conversations with Marvel before. Whether or not those were the direct conversations that led straight to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, I don't know. Maybe it came up, right? Maybe that's where that idea first initiated. But I think that his excitement to join the Marvel Cinematic Universe is very palpable here. And again, I'd love to see him in the role. But I think that what this makes clear is that the role of Kang, was at some point maybe being thrown around to be recast, and they talked about it. But talked about it can simply mean, and again, he says something like, we talked about the landscape of Marvel. He and Kevin Feige probably just sat down in a room with a couple other producers, and they were just like, yeah, so what's going on in Marvel, right? And Feige probably was like, well, this Kang situation. And Colman Domingo said something like, well, okay, so what's the deal with that? Am I being considered seriously to be recasting? And they probably just talked about that. But look, ultimately, at the end of the day, Colman Domingo seems pretty adamant. He's like, no, I just want to build something that's my own. And I think that's really admirable, right? You have these characters like Josh Brolin, who plays Thanos. Michael B. Jordan plays Killmonger. We're just talking about villains here. I mean, he could play hero. But I'm just looking at these villains. Michael Keaton playing Vulture. They built those characters to be their own. And, you can go on the flip side. Chris Evans, Captain America, Chadwick Boseman, very sadly short-lived, but T'Challa, Tom Holland as Spider-Man. They've built their characters from the ground up, and they've done really special things with them. So I don't blame him at all. It seems to me that the plans for Kang are, if there ever were any to continue him, seems like they're not really going to happen. But who knows, right? Who knows? But at the very least, it does not seem like Colman Domingo will be playing that version. And it looks like, just based on these, these quotes, it looks like we would be getting Colman Domingo sometime relatively soon in the MCU if he really is interested and if Kevin Feige is able to find him a role that fits. So guys, what do you think about these quotes from Colman Domingo? Do you think that Kang would have been the best role for him, or do you think that there's something else that would be exciting for him to play? Let me know in the comments down below.